Somebody who loves you lied to you. Pause. Not because they wanted to hurt you, because they didn't know any better. Your parents told you to get good grades, get a stable job, and save what's left over. Your teachers told you the same thing, dressed up in a diploma. Your friends nodded along because it's what everyone says at the dinner table. The government built whole systems around this idea. Pay your taxes, contribute to your retirement account, wait for the golden years. Books on your shelf preach it. Podcasts in your ears repeat it. And here's the strange part. Every single one of these people meant well. Your mom wasn't trying to trap you. Your favorite finance podcast host isn't a villain. They're just repeating what was handed to them, the same way you're about to repeat it to your own kids, unless something breaks the chain today. Pause. That's the sad math of it. The people who love you most passed you a broken map, and they didn't even know the paper was upside down. Emphasis. Emphasis. Here's the thing nobody tells you. There are two sets of rules for money. One set is written in books for the public. The other set is practiced quietly, in small back rooms, in family businesses, in kitchens after the kids go to bed. You've been handed the public version your whole life. Save 10%, get a raise, buy a house, retire at 65 if you're lucky. That's the version for the many. Tonight I'm going to hand you the version for the few. Not 7 rules, not 10, exactly 3. 3, because after 20 years of watching ordinary people build extraordinary wealth, a janitor, an immigrant with broken English, a small-town mechanic, I noticed they all obeyed the exact same 3 hinges. Not 4, not 2, 3. Every other rule you've heard is decoration hanging off one of these 3 pillars. Take away any one of the 3, and the whole structure falls the way a table with 2 legs falls, no matter how nice the tablecloth looks.
Before we go further, I want to give you one warning, and I want you to actually hear it. Some of what I'm about to say will contradict things you were taught to trust. It might sting a little. If you can't handle finding out that something you believed for 20 years might be incomplete, this is your moment to close the video and go back to the version of your life you already know. But if you're still here in 10 seconds, that tells me something about you. It tells me you're one of the few, not one of the many. Pause. Good. Let's keep going. This isn't theory I read in a business school textbook. This happens in small back offices of family businesses in Dayton, in the stockroom of a corner grocery store in Fresno, in a garage workshop in a town outside Louisville where a man kept his tools cleaner than most people keep their homes. Quiet places, unremarkable places. That's where the real rules of money get practiced, not taught. Jim Rohn used to say that your life doesn't get better by chance. It gets better by change, and these 3 rules are exactly the change he was pointing at. He built his entire philosophy on the idea that discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment, and every single one of the 3 rules we're about to walk through is discipline wearing a different coat. Rule number 1, I call it the spread, not the gap, not the difference, the spread, because a gap sounds accidental and a spread sounds like something a person deliberately created and defended. Let me tell you about a person. I want to tell you about myself first because this rule found me the hard way. Years ago, I was making decent money. Every month, whatever I earned, I somehow spent. A little more income always seemed to invite a little more outflow, like water finding a crack in a wall. I didn't call it a problem. I called it living well. It took me a long time to notice that my income was climbing every year, but the space between what I earned and what I spent never grew wider. It stayed flat, like a river that never rises no matter how much rain falls upstream, because the banks keep shifting to match the water. Now let me tell you about somebody else. A janitor in a mid-sized city. We'll just say he worked nights, cleaning offices after everyone else went home. Nobody in that building thought twice about him. He wore the same 2 work shirts on rotation for 15 years. He drove a car that had over 200,000 miles on it, and he was proud of that number, not embarrassed by it. Here's what nobody at that office knew. Every single year, no matter what he earned, he kept his spending exactly the same. Not roughly the same, exactly the same. When his pay increased, the increase didn't touch his lifestyle. It went straight into an investment account and stayed there, untouched, quarter after quarter, year after year. By the time he passed away, that man had over $1 million sitting quietly in that account, and almost nobody who knew him had any idea. Pause, notice that. He wasn't earning some secret fortune. He was protecting a spread. Here is the math, because the math is the only honest teacher in this room. Say 2 people both earn $50,000 a year. One person spends $48,000 of it. The other spends $35,000 of it. That's a $13,000 spread. Now put that $13,000 a year into an investment account earning a modest 7% average return. which is roughly what a diversified stock market index has returned over long stretches of history. After 10 years, that's not just $130,000 sitting there. Compound growth means it's closer to $180,000 because the money made money on the money it already made. After 25 years at that same modest rate, that spread alone turns into more than $800,000. Same income as the person who spent $48,000. Wildly different outcome. Not because of a better job, not because of a lucky stock pick. Because of a spread that never closed. Here's the analogy I want you to keep. Think about two rivers that start at the exact same spring, high in the mountains, same water source, same starting point. One river hits flat land almost immediately and spreads out wide and shallow, soaking into the earth, evaporating in the sun, feeding nothing but the surface. The other river gets funneled through a narrow canyon. Same amount of water, but because the banks stay close together, the water has nowhere to go but forward, and it carves through solid rock over time. Your income is the water. The spread is the canyon. If you let your lifestyle expand every time your income does, you're the wide, shallow river. You'll look full for a moment, and then you'll disappear into the ground. Keep your banks narrow, and that same water becomes powerful enough to cut through stone. Rule number 2, I call it the skill stack. Most people think wealth comes from one big skill, one talent, one lucky break. The people who actually build wealth quietly reject that story. They stack narrow, boring skills on top of each other until the stack itself becomes rare, even if no single skill in it is impressive on its own. Let me tell you my own story with this one. Early on, I thought I needed one giant, glamorous skill to get ahead. I waited for it. I waited for the one thing that would make me special. What actually moved the needle was smaller and less exciting. I learned to read a basic balance sheet. Then I learned to write clearly enough that people trusted what I said. Then I learned enough about negotiating that I stopped leaving money on the table in ordinary conversations. None of those 3 things alone would get you hired as an expert in anything. Stacked together, they made me useful in rooms that other people couldn't even enter. Now let me tell you about somebody else, a man who arrived in this country with almost no English and even less money. He took the only job he could get, stocking shelves at a small grocery store, long hours, low pay. While he stocked shelves, he watched. He watched how the owner ordered inventory. He watched which products sat too long and which ones sold out too fast. He taught himself basic bookkeeping at night, slowly, 1 page at a time, with a dictionary next to him translating words he didn't know. None of that made him famous. But by the time he was 48 years old, that man owned 4 small grocery stores of his own because he had quietly stacked shelf stocking, plus inventory instinct, plus basic bookkeeping, plus enough language to negotiate a lease. Not one giant skill. 4 ordinary ones, stacked like bricks, until the wall could hold a roof. Here is the math on this one. Imagine 3 separate skills, and each one alone only makes you slightly more valuable than the average person doing your job. Let's say each skill alone is worth about a 10% edge. 10% doesn't sound like much, but skills stack multiplicatively in the real economy, not just additively, because rare combinations get paid for the combination, not the parts. Someone with 3 10% edges isn't 30% more valuable. In a competitive market, that combination can put you in the top 5 or 10% of everyone doing that kind of work, simply because almost nobody else bothered to stack all 3. Opportunity cost math backs this up too. Every hour you spend adding a new, useful, boring skill is an hour that compounds against you for the rest of your working life, the same way that early investment compounded for the janitor. Think of bamboo. For the first few years, a bamboo plant looks like it's barely growing at all above the ground. Underground, though, it's building an enormous root system, quietly out of sight. Then once that root system is strong enough, the bamboo shoots up faster than almost any other plant on Earth, sometimes multiple feet in a single day. People who only watch the surface think bamboo is a slow, unremarkable plant for years, right up until the point it isn't. The skill stack works the same way. Nobody notices the roots. Everybody notices the day it shoots past them. Rule number 3, I call it the lifestyle freeze. This is the rule people resist the most because it feels like punishment, and it isn't. It's protection. Here's my story with it. When I first started earning more than I used to, I told myself I deserved to upgrade everything at once, car, apartment, the whole picture. It felt like proof I had arrived. What it actually did was quietly erase every gain from Rule 1, the spread, before it even had a chance to grow. I was working harder, earning more, and somehow ending every year in the exact same financial position as the year before. The raise wasn't the problem. The automatic upgrade in response to the raise was the problem. Now a third story. A draftsman, the kind of person who worked with blueprints and rulers before computers, did that job, decided early in his career that his household expenses would stay frozen at a certain level, no matter what happened to his paycheck. Promotions came, raises came, his house stayed the same size. His car stayed the same age until it genuinely needed replacing, not before. Every dollar above that frozen line went straight into ownership, first small pieces of real estate, later a modest stock portfolio. He wasn't a big earner by industry standards, but because his lifestyle stood still while his income kept climbing, he was able to stop working entirely in his 50s, years before most of his coworkers, who were earning more than him on paper and had far less than him in reality. Here's the math, and it's simple but brutal. Say your income grows by 4% a year, which is a fairly ordinary raise. If your lifestyle also grows by 4% a year to match it, your gap, your spread never widens no matter how many raises you get. It's the same shallow river from Rule 1, just with fancier water flowing through it. But if you freeze your lifestyle spending and let only your income rise, that 4% annual raise flows entirely into the gap every single year. Compounded over 20 years, freezing your lifestyle while your income climbs at a normal, unremarkable pace can be the single largest lever in this entire framework, larger than almost any investment return you could chase, because it guarantees the fuel that feeds the other two rules. Picture a dam. A river keeps flowing in day after day, sometimes a trickle, sometimes a flood. A dam doesn't try to stop the river. It simply refuses to let all of that water rush downstream and disappear the moment it arrives. It holds it, gathers it, and only releases it with intention, usually to generate something useful. Your income is the river. Your lifestyle is supposed to be the dam. Most people leave the gates wide open. The lifestyle freeze means you build the dam, while a little higher every year than your spending is allowed to rise, so more and more of that river gets captured instead of washed out to sea. Now here's something you need to sit with, because it's the paradox at the center of everything I've said tonight. Every single rule I just gave you is conceptually simple enough to fit on the back of a napkin. A 12-year-old could understand the spread, the skill stack, and the lifestyle freeze in about 90 seconds. There's no secret formula. There's no insider information. And yet, despite how simple these three rules are, fewer than 1 in 50 people who hear them will actually put them into practice for more than 30 days. Not because the rules are hard to understand, because they're hard to live inside of, day after day, when nobody's watching and nobody's clapping. If you're still with me at this point, you've already learned something the average viewer never sticks around long enough to hear, that a widening spread, quietly stacked over years, can outperform a flashy salary. That alone puts you ahead of most people scrolling past this video right now. If you're still with me a bit further, you've learned that skills stack in combinations, not in isolation, and that the boring, unglamorous skill you've been putting off learning might be the exact brick your wall is missing. And if you're still with me here, near the end, you've learned that the raise you're chasing this year is worthless unless you also freeze the lifestyle that's waiting to swallow it whole the moment it lands in your account. So here's what I want you to do, and I want you to actually do it, not just nod along. Go get a piece of paper, an actual physical piece of paper, not a note on your phone, and a pen, not a keyboard. On that paper, I want you to write down 3 commitments, not 5, not 1, 3, matching the 3 rules you just heard. Commitment 1, tied to the spread, a specific number you will not let your spending cross this month, no matter what your income does. Commitment 2, tied to the skill stack, one boring, unglamorous skill you will start learning in the next 7 days. Commitment 3, tied to the lifestyle freeze, one upgrade you were planning to make this year that you are now choosing to delay for at least 12 months. Write all 3 down, sign your name under them, date it today. Then go stand in front of a mirror, look yourself in the eye, and read those 3 lines out loud. This is your 30-day contract with yourself, not 30 days to get rich. 30 days to prove to yourself that you can hold a line you drew. Here's the last thing I'll say before we close, because I think you deserve honesty more than you deserve comfort. Out of everyone watching this video right now, 98 of you will agree with everything I just said. You'll nod. You'll maybe even say this makes sense out loud to an empty room. And 2 of you, just 2 out of every 100, will actually go get that paper, write the 3 lines, sign it, and still be following it in 30 days. I don't know which one of you are yet. Neither do you honestly, not until day 30 arrives. Pause. The room you are sitting in right now, wherever it is, already contains everything you need to begin. Not a better job, not a lucky break, just paper, a pen, and the willingness to keep 3 simple promises when nobody's checking on you. If tonight was the first time you've heard these 3 rules laid out plainly, there's a reason this channel exists, and there's a reason Jim Rohn's philosophy sits underneath almost everything I teach here, because he understood before almost anyone that it isn't the big dramatic decisions that build a life, it's the small disciplined ones repeated quietly over years. Next time, we're going to open the door to something I only hinted at tonight, what I call the quiet network, the invisible law. You're of relationships that decides who even gets access to opportunities like the ones the draftsman, the grocer, and the janitor eventually found. That's part 2, and it goes even further behind the room than tonight did.